Welcome to Hot Takes, brought to you by 50cupstea.com, where united we sip, discuss, and learn. Join us as we dive into the hottest takes on culture, business trends, and the threads that bind us. Get ready for inspiring stories, candid conversations, and a fresh perspective on living a healthy, fulfilled life. Grab your cup and tune in. Let's get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill LuMaye. It is time for 50 Cups Hot Takes, the podcast everybody waits for, because Jim Baker is here. He is an entrepreneur, a very successful businessman, owner of the 50 Cups Tea Company, and even more importantly, provides me with a new tea experience each and every time we get together. Jim, how are you? It's good to see you.
Doing well. I'm not sure if we have a significant audience, but nonetheless, we'll keep trying.
Well, you got to be optimistic. You just don't know.
Today we have de-stress. And I think we had it last month too, but it actually brought the ice today. And last time we had a malfunction. So it's been freshly brewed.
Terrific.
Looks pretty good on ice. Almost looks like an old fashioned.
I was going to say that.
But it's not. And hopefully you didn't have a flat tire today. So you're good to go. And you may not even need it. So hopefully you'll stay awake because it's got some chamomile and some valerian root in there and some orange peel. That
is good. You know, I've said this before. I've never been a tea person. Never have liked tea at all. And I've yet to have one I did not like from you. And I'm not just sucking up, because if I don't like it, I'm not going to compliment it. But the stuff is wonderful. I have not had a bad tasting tea. Now, if I were to want to make my own tea, Jim, how would I go about doing that? Where would I get this wonderful tea?
50cupstea.com.
Look at that.
Very easy.
Now, do you
drop
charge
down, hit a couple clicks, swipe your credit card, and you're good to go. And by the way, we do not charge extra for a credit card charge.
I like that. Because the first you probably should, everyone else does. And the first hot take is something very sexy. Fuel charges, surcharges, I should say, on certain items. Certain vendors do that for delivery of whatever it might be. And for some reason, you seem concerned by it, Jim.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed before, but some of us we order things, maybe not necessarily through Amazon. They're delivered and you get the bill and, you got your price, you got your taxes, and then you got the fuel surcharge on top of that. And then you get your total price. And again, if you have landscapers coming to your house, you're hit with a fuel charge. Anytime, the other day I got a repairman to come to my mom's house to fix a leaky refrigerator, and got the bill and fuel surcharge on that as well. And I just started to think, this all came about during the 2022 time frame, when we were we're kind of in that whole COVID, mandate vaccine world at that point in time. Like the original spread had dissipated, so to speak, if you believe it. And then you had Omicron, then you had the Delta or something else. You had all these different variations. And suddenly, for whatever reason, the oil prices skyrocketed. And as such, the average gas price spiked in 2022. And in 2022, it ended up being $4.11 for the year. And during that same time, crude went to $94.53 a barrel. So suddenly we started seeing, to compensate for reduced margin with service providers, with delivery people, pretty much with anything, they added a fuel surcharge. So every time you ordered something, or every time somebody came to your house, you were paying another $3 or $4, a month, let's say, in a fuel surcharge. And I started thinking to myself at the time, if they're making 30 or 40 or 50 deliveries a day times that $4 surcharge, that's $200 a day. There's no way they're burning $200 worth of gas a day, right? So you multiply that by 5 days a week, maybe 6 days if they deliver on Saturdays, and then you multiply that monthly and yearly and so on and so forth. That's just pure profit dropping right to the bottom line.
See, I was going to ask you that, because during that COVID era, everybody was, for the most part, I think, ordering, especially off of Amazon. And if they get somebody to come and do something, they would do it. So there's a certain argument you can make, I think, that, well, they deserve to charge for the fuel, especially when it went up to $4.11. But when you put those numbers to it, it does seem, I don't want to use the word scam, but an opportunity, shall we say, to make a little extra money.
Yeah, I think it was brilliant at the time because you're not going to be able to, maybe some people could successfully negotiate it off. But for the most part, I think people would say, well, it's only $4. I get it. Gas prices are high. Same time, that person who's buying that service or that good that's being delivered is also in their own personal life paying more money for gas as well.
That's correct.
But they're not able to get it reimbursed. So there's less money they have probably at the end of the day to be able to spend, and they're getting pinched. But it seems like these delivery folks and other service providers were brilliant in the opportunity to be able to capitalize on the surcharge. So with that said, now it's 2025, and the projected average gas price this year is going to be $3.09. I'm no math genius, but if I take 411 and subtract 309, that's a $1.02 difference in reduced cost over the last almost 3 years.
And we're going to see that savings, Jim.
We are not.
We are not?
Because the bills that I still receive all have fuel surcharges on there still. So if your HVAC person comes to the house to fix your air conditioner, you're hit with a fuel surcharge. Like, everybody should look. You're getting hit with fuel surcharges all the time. And I'm wondering now, why I'm hotter about the hot take is, why aren't they going off the bill, or at a minimum, because they never were there before, right, they should be off. But if they're going to be smart about it and customer centric, reduce it, and maybe have a little thing on your printable receipt saying that, fuel surcharge is now $2.06, reduced from $4.09, right? So it looks like they're at least doing something. Of course, that $2 is still going to the bottom line because the fuel is now cheaper, than it was 3 years ago. So it's kind of like a hotel fee. Once it's there, or a tax, it's not going away.
That's true of so many things, though. I mentioned I looked at the cell bill, and you get all of these fees, and most of them are very small. But you add them all up, and it might be $10, $12 that's added to your overall bill. But when you picture a company, let's say it's Lowe's with the fuel charge, and I'm not sure they do that. But
they do.
On a company basis, you're talking not just hundreds of dollars, are you, Jim? You're talking, you're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like the resort fee at a hotel, right?
Right.
What do you get for the resort fee?
So why don't we get upset by this? Is it because the amount looks so small that it's not worth the trouble? Or are we just completely unaware of it? We just accept it, and as we seem to accept so many things today.
Speak for myself. I'm not going to examine every single invoice, that comes through, or receipt. So part of me doesn't care. All right. And then when you start looking at it, and then you're obviously looking at it from a logical perspective, and you're doing data research on what were the prices back 3 years ago compared to now. And you're like, why am I getting the surcharge still? But I think we just accept it, similar to what we're seeing today with the credit card charges. There's a lot more merchants that literally have their signs out saying that we're going to charge you an extra, 3% on your bill. Restaurants also, if you don't pay by debit card or pay by cash. But I think people still swipe the card. And now I'm ripping out my debit card all the time because it drives me crazy that I got to pay an extra 3% just for using my Visa or my American Express.
You see, I don't want to get off topic, but I still don't fully understand why they do that. I know the credit card company charges them, correct? For the terminal or whatever it is, but the credit card company also charges the person charging whatever they're charging. So they're it's almost like, again, I don't see the rationale behind the charge initially from the credit card company, because their goal is to get people to use their service and then charge them the interest. Right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. So what happens, retail has gotten so, I guess you could say, complicated with the invention of technology within the inventory and the checkout process. So now everybody has an electronic POS, right?
Right.
So the POS company is kind of like a cell phone. It's like an iPhone that's attached to a Verizon, let's say, or attached to an AT&T. So the POS system either has Verizon-like or AT&T as your service. So you're locked into that carrier, so to speak.
Okay.
Right? And then they have agreements with all the credit card firms. And then you could choose. If you're doing 200 or 300 transactions a month, you might take a higher fixed price with a little bit less credit card charge. But if you're doing less, you may obviously take the less of a fixed price, which the POS system is getting, by the way, and then you pay a little bit more on credit card. So then the POS people say, hey, look, if you want to save some money, not from us, of course,
right.
but if you want to save some money on the credit card charges, charge back your customer the amount that you're being charged from the credit card company. And I think originally a lot of merchants were simply saying, well, I'll just raise my price by, let's say, $3. Well, that's great, but that doesn't cover the credit card companies are going to charge you that 3% now on $3 more.
Right.
So you're not incrementally getting that money back. So now they've come up with, put the little sign out there requesting, obviously, they really want you to use your debit card. They don't want you to use cash.
May I ask, I don't mean to interrupt, but what's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? Because they're still using the terminal.
Most debit cards are like a 0.5% transaction cost, whereas credit cards, depending on the credit card. So if you just have a plain old Visa, let's say with no points associated with it, might be a 1.5% charge.
All right.
If you have the Capital One, let's say with billions of points and they give you free dishwashers after, 400,000 points accumulated and everything else, well, those charges are higher because the credit card companies aren't giving away those products for free. They're paid for through the merchant fees that they're charging the coffee shop, the restaurant, or other companies. So those costs keep going up, right? Because the credit card companies keep trying to brand and market, special things for people. People may love to travel,
right?
So they want the miles. People may love to, do free hotel stays everywhere. So they want that kind of a card. Other people might want to get cash back like Discover. All that stuff's paid for by those fees that the merchant is either eating or now passing back on to the consumer.
See, I didn't realize that. I thought I always realized they were obviously getting the money somewhere to pay for this. They're not giving you that just because you're a good customer. But I always thought it was the customer that was doing it. I didn't realize it was falling on the local shop owners that are
mostly
paying
the
it.
local shop owners. It's certainly not the POS companies, and it's also the consumer, because for some of these special great cards, you have to pay a higher annual membership fee. So that's paying for it as well. And so trust me, at the end, the banks, the credit card companies aren't paying for anything other than their cost of doing business and fraud protection, which is an issue, and paying for regulations and et cetera. But they're not, these cards, these points, all these special things, they're not going out of pocket for that
But
at all.
you could get around that by using your debit card rather than a credit card.
You can. Most merchants will accept a debit card and not upcharge you. And
Well, that's
believe
good
it
to
or
know.
not, I felt like there was this big push to go to this paperless digital payment structure, but it seems like, at least in this neck of the woods and with smaller merchants, it's going back to the old days where they just want cold cash.
I find it interesting because I also try to pay with cash now, how a lot of retailers are almost reluctant to take it because we've developed a habit of going to the card and just tap it and go. They've made it very easy. And I think even going with cash and keeping cash as part of our daily life is important for a lot of other reasons as well, right? But going back even to the surcharge on the fuel surcharge, it seems like these companies, very brilliant, they're finding ways to make more money. Could you make the argument, Jim? I'll play the devil's advocate here. Listen, if you want to go pick up your refrigerator at Lowe's, go ahead and pick it up. If not, you're going to have to pay a little bit for my gas. That seems fair or not?
Interesting concept. Sure. That's one way of looking at it. But do something else with it. Transportation charge, delivery charge. Like, I would prefer taking the extra $4 instead of charging $50 for delivery. You're going to charge me $54.
Right.
But when you're saying it's a fuel surcharge and you're intimating that the fuel prices are still high and therefore you're looking for some relief,
right? That's
not true anymore. It's $3.09 compared to $4.11 of 3 years ago. And it's steadily gone down since 2022. I mean, 23 it was $3.61, 24 is $3.30, and then to this year it's projected to be at $3.09.
And we're seeing the price of oil also drop.
Of course, yeah. I mean, like I said, 22 was $94.50, and it's been in the 70s since 23, and now it's going to be 67 and change by the end of the year on average, projected.
Now, this is where conspiracy theorists would say, well, see, now the oil companies are gouging us. Shouldn't the price be lower than it is now? But you had a really good point. There is a reason that the prices are still higher than I would expect, considering I think it's $65 or whatever it was today for oil. Why is that? Do you know?
Well, I mean, I think all of us kind of know that it's one thing to be able to produce the liquid gold everywhere,
yes.
Get it out of the ground, but it can only be refined in our country. I want to say maybe 5 places throughout the entire country, where 2 or 3 of them are centered in Louisiana, Texas coastline of the Gulf of America. And I think you had mentioned before, you thought maybe one in California was being closed.
I think they're closing one down. Yeah.
I mean, if everything's bottlenecked into the refinery, then, the cost of doing business is still going to remain high.
See, these hot takes do get me hot because I hadn't thought about these fees, and now I am, and it really gets me angry. But I'm not sure what to do about it. I guess if enough people said something, maybe they'd listen. But we're kind of stuck with it.
I mean, overall, I guess it's as long as you're willing to pay extra, it seems to be working fine. There's no gas shortages, for example. People can get to the pump, get their gas. Now, of course, we had gas shortages about 3 or 4 years ago for a little while. But especially in this state when that one, I guess, transfer station lost power or something like that. And then, the governor mistakenly, I think, went out and says, fuel emergency, don't go to the pumps, which was code for everybody in the world
as fast as you get there. Yes, and bring cans.
We clearly ran out of gas quicker than we probably anticipated. But that was short-lived, thankfully. Yeah, I think if you're going to, you got to get the EPA and all these states to, reduce the regulatory burden on refineries, and we could build more refineries.
Well, all of these problems that we talk about are easily fixable if they choose to do so. Now, can I jump back to the credit cards?
Sure.
Because I know a little bit about you, but I've also gone through this where oftentimes insurance companies, for instance, and we've had this too, you take the survey, you buy the premiums, and they give you an opportunity to get a little bit back. That happened to you. And I want you to tell the story because I'm sorry, Jim, I know you can afford it, so I'm going to laugh at your expense just a little bit because this is so typical of the insurance company, what sometimes they do to people. Would you mind? It has to do with getting a little bit back and all of the fabulous gifts you could get, and you chose to go one route, which kind of bit you.
Yeah, so my insurance company in North Carolina is Better of North Carolina.
Oh, yes, know it well.
And because of where we're located, you have 2 choices. You used to have 5, by the way, on the exchange, but now you have 2. You have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you have Better. So basically, Better covers the Duke system and the Wake Med system, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield covers Wake, and they cover UNC. And that's basically the 3 primary providers in our area, and they've, of course, bought up all of the private practices in the area. So at the end of the day, you're just dealing with 3 healthcare providers for the most part.
Hell of an improvement.
And you have, and you have 2 insurance carriers. So then, so Better obviously charge you a monthly premium, and then they have this thing called My Health Benefits, and they're points. So if you go get a physical, for example, you get X amount of points. If they give you a mail-in, colon test basically, and if you do that, you get X amount of points. So in the old days, about 3 years ago, up until last year, you would accumulate these points, and they were basically converted into dollars. So if you had, let's say, 700 points, that converts into about $400. I don't understand their math, but it is what it is.
Right.
And then you could apply that $400 to your premium online.
Oh, that's great.
Right? Very easy to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think they figured out that was way too easy, and that wasn't correct. So they therefore changed everything. And last year went to a point system like they had, converting into dollars. And then you had the opportunity to hit this link to buy toasters and microwaves and all that stuff. But if you already have that, you don't need it.
Right.
So I'm thinking, what else can I do? And it says, in big print, not in small print, hey, you can convert this into a Visa debit card and just use it however you want to use it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. So I did punched it all in, boom, sent me the credit card. The Visa debit card, and I think my balance was $700.
Nice.
Right. So I'm like, great. So I take it to a restaurant in January when I get the card.
Oh, the meal you must have had. Wow.
It wasn't worth $700. It was about $50.
Yeah.
Give it to the server, and she comes back and says, hey, it's declined. I'm like, interesting. It's a debit card. She goes, yeah, I know. And so I had to whip out another card to pay, and didn't get charged the 3%, by the way. So I'm like, well, that's a problem. I guess it doesn't work in restaurants. Then I call up the insurance company. I don't know if any of you ever called an insurance company before, but it's 70,000 prompts. And then you finally get somebody that, guess what? Probably English is not their primary language.
Yes.
And so I'm going through with this very nice person, and she basically tells me at the end of the day that you can use it for utility purchases like gas bills, electric bills.
All right.
You can apply it towards your health benefit premium.
That would be great.
I said, great. How do I do that? Next time your bill is due, call us up, and we'll, based on your balance, we'll apply a certain amount to your balance, and you can pay the rest. Okay, great. So I come home, I put the card on my town of Cary water bill, and I usually ignore these paperless notifications because I know it's going to get paid.
Right.
And about 3 months into it, I get a skull and crossbones email from town of Cary saying they're about ready to shut my water off because I have a balance of, let's say, $300.
Oh my goodness.
And so I go online, and lo and behold, the debit card that I'm using they're not taking it. So I call to get that automated balance, and I have.
Wait. No, you've got to be pretty angry at this point.
Yeah, I'm fired up.
Yeah. Now you're calling. Okay.
And the balance is still there. The balance is still there.
Yeah, it's right in front of you. It's your money.
Tell you what, I'll pivot out of the utility world.
Yes.
And I'll just use it to pay my premium.
Perfect.
Call up, go through the whole rigmarole again, get somebody, she runs it, and she's like, okay, it's going to take like 2 to 3 days to process. But you know how when you pay, you get like an email, maybe sometimes an hour later, but usually it's immediate saying, boom, and,
right.
Receipt, for, I got nothing. It was crickets. Day 3, day 4, crickets. And then day 5 rolls around, and in big, bold, skull and crossbones again, your charges were denied. So the thing doesn't work at all.
So what did you do?
And I have a balance.
Yeah, what did you do?
So
did you call them again?
It says call the bank. So I called the bank, but you're actually calling the insurance company. It's financial division. It's their card.
Oh, wow.
And right now, I've prayed to God, and it's simply in God's hands. And God is telling me, you know what? At this point, things are rigged. The scam, just let it go. Don't even worry about it. It's only $700.
Take the toaster.
That's what God's saying.
Is that what he's saying?
Go online and buy a toaster, and maybe you can regift it to somebody.
I went for everybody at Christmas, and they all get toasters.
Right.
But that's a terrible thing to do. You're not the only person obviously going through that.
I know.
And it just sounds like another scam. It really does.
And I can't figure it out.
No, and I just can't believe you were that patient to go through it that far. Unless you're not sharing what you really said and what tone. But I'm sure you're very professional.
But as you know too, you get you could buy gift cards, and there's some restrictions on gift cards. So if you get one, don't let it sit on your counter for 2 years because it'll expire after a year.
Yes.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And then there's a charge on those as well if you want to load it up. And so nothing's free. Amazon, I think, is a card you can buy and you don't have an extra fee. And I'm sure there's others, but I'm sure it's built in there somewhere. I'm very cynical, especially more so having done these shows, Jim, because it seems like everybody's got either a great business plan or a scam, which sometimes that line's blurred a bit. So what color are you going to get? Are you going with the chrome or the black, a flat black? What?
I don't know. It's too bad. My 2 daughters are expecting babies, and they already had their showers.
Oh, man.
Shower. The young one's coming. Maybe I'll get the toaster for them.
No, I've done that myself with even the credit cards that you speak of where you get points, and then eventually you can turn it into something, and you can shop at certain places, and it's usually something I have no interest in, and I think that probably is more so the case.
Yeah.
Speaking of, one of them is mileage on airlines, and those you gotta fly a lot, man, before you can get on a plane for free, so to speak.
Here's a hot take on some 50 Cups tea.
Our de-stress tea is great for relaxation as it contains ingredients like chamomile, valerian root, honeybush, and dried orange. Chamomile assists in anxiety as well as the ability to help you fall asleep. Valerian root helps slow down nerve activity, which promotes for anti-anxiety. Honeybush helps calm the central nervous system, and the dried orange replenishes vitamin C reserves as well as reducing cortisol levels.
Visit 50cupstea.com to find out more.
But I have a question for you, and it is a hot point, hot topic, hot take, and that is there are times I'm sitting there going, you know what, especially during the COVID era and all of that, I got to fly, but the refundable tickets are really expensive in comparison to the non-refundable tickets. But at the same time, if you're flying with a family and let's say something happens, that's a boatload of money as well. Now, if I were to guess, I'm sure you've pondered this yourself. Where do you stand on this? I mean, what is the better option, or is there one?
The airlines, it's an interesting thing with airline tickets because everybody, it's almost like health insurance in a way. They know they have to pay for it, but they want the maximum service for the least amount of money. So they're always looking for the cheapest ticket.
Yes.
So now, and I think Delta recently just changed their pricing. So when you go in there to book something, they literally give you like 5 different choices now. Before it might have been 3. So there's regular, there's economy plus, and there's economy comfort, double, whatever. Then there's first class, then there's Delta One, and then there's within the drop down boxes of each segment, there's the ability to buy a non-refundable ticket or a refundable ticket.
Right.
And I really started thinking about this a few weeks ago, and I get where some people can't do it, but there's like, for a little bit more money. So if you bought the non-refundable ticket and then you paid for the insurance, which I think you'd have to give away your firstborn and take 400 pictures and get 20 doctor notes to get your money back from the insurance company.
And yours.
You're probably not going to want to go through that hassle.
Right.
And of course, if there's a lightning strike within 800 miles of the airport, they're going to tell you that it was weather related and they can't do anything about it. So I started doing some math and I'm thinking, okay, well, the non-refundable, let's say is $300 and then the insurance is another $150, that's $450. Well, if I buy the refundable ticket for, let's say $550, I have complete freedom to cancel that ticket out. Yes, right. I'm paying a little bit more, but I have zero hassle. I can cancel that thing the minute before that plane takes off.
Extra $100 and zero hassle is worth it for many people.
And most of the time, you're going to end up buying the refundable and taking the flight. But there are times you might not, but then you get your money back. There's no flight credits. Right now, I have to get a CFO to figure out where all my flight credits are. I mean, I got some on Delta, I got some on American. And of course, these airlines, Delta's a little bit better and so is United, but American, you got to do a deep dive to pull your flight credit up. It's not just sitting there in your little wallet like some of these other airlines have it. So that's aggravating. And of course, certain airlines, if you book the ticket for you and your wife, you have a credit, total credit, but then you can't use that credit for just you, even though it's your credit card and you made the payment. You have to use whatever hers was on her ticket and then whatever yours was on your ticket. So they find ways to keep the money into their system and they're hoping you never use those credits anyhow, right? And that's just a complete windfall for them. So I've changed my tune and I'm buying refundable tickets from now on. Yes, there's a little bit of a premium, another $50 to $100 if you add up the insurance and the non-refundable costs, but you have complete flexibility to cancel and you get your money back within 1 or 2 days.
The other part of flying, if I could just interject just a little bit, because it's become such a hassle. I don't know. Do you enjoy flying?
No, who does?
No, I mean, I absolutely hate it. There was a time I did. There was a time you get on the plane and you could smoke and have drinks, and I was... but it's not that way anymore. But the ticket price itself, whether it's refundable or not, does not include so many things. Oftentimes you'll go to pick your seat and they go, gosh, if you'd like to sit, that's an extra $50 per seat. Right. Especially if you want to be somewhere towards the front of the plane. So I don't know. Is there any way around it then? You have to make a choice. I mean, I've read somewhere that some credit cards will actually cover a non-refundable. But have you discovered any
any
loophole
I've
at
never
all?
seen that at all.
All right.
Unless you dispute a charge, but that's kind of hard to win the disputed charge against an airline unless they erroneously charged you for 2 seats instead of just one. But no, I think the only way you get around that, I think, if you have status, but most people with lots of status aren't buying economy tickets.
No, right.
They're usually, it's all about spend, really. It's not really about the miles.
Right.
So, if you're going to go ahead and book yourself, an expensive seat all the time, then you're going to get more status. The problem is most of those people don't even want a chance buying a lesser seat because, God forbid, if they don't get an upgrade, their hot take will go through the roof at that point in time. So they just keep spending and they don't worry about the upgrade piece of it.
Yeah. When I fly by myself and let's say I go back to Green Bay to visit, do something, sometimes they have like the very cheap price. And I mean, it is ridiculously, not the one that has 10 stops to Denver, but there's usually one. But it's a crappy seat, back of the plane. I don't take luggage. I do a carry-on, and I got that system down. And every now and then I can get on with that cheap price for a couple $100 and fly, where normally if I had to do it the regular way, it'd be like $400 or $500. And I get the feeling they really dislike me. When I get there, I say, what do you mean you don't want to upgrade? What do you mean you have no bags? I'm surprised. Well, I am frisked quite frequently going through the TSA. Maybe that has something to do with it. All right. I guess I spent too much time on the airlines. Maybe it's more of a bugaboo for me.
Enjoy the friendly skies.
Yeah. Well, I was saddened today and to hear Elon Musk was leaving. And I think what he did with Doge was remarkable, and especially Big Balls and the rest of the team. And what they discovered, I thought, was maybe not as much as they had hoped to at this point, but it was pretty eye-opening. What's your take on Doge as it sits and the reaction from different people and what they've accomplished or didn't accomplish?
I'm surprised that all of us, I think, want the government to run as efficiently as possible, not to waste our tax dollars. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that. But when it comes to anything that might affect them, and I mean the bureaucracy in this case, or the average citizen, or they don't like the way the approach from Doge took place, then it becomes just not going to work.
No.
And on top of that, I mean, they never really gave these guys a chance. I mean, they went to the courts right away just to get injunctions to stop things. Then things got stopped. Then the next judge would say, you're good to go. Other judges kept saying, no, you can't do it. And I thought everybody wants an efficient government where we're not wasting money. And what I'm ultimately sad about is the bureaucracy won again. It's this giant money-sucking machine that they have zero. And what's his name? Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, was on the All In podcast the other day, and he's probably one of the few senators and congressmen that knows about budgets and understands how much spending is going on. And he made a comment that the average representative has absolutely no idea what anything costs, and they don't read the bills. They don't look at the numbers. They just simply are told what to vote for, and they vote for it. And, and I credit Musk for staying for as long as he did, because I think a lesser individual would have been gone, probably after January 31st. I mean, he just got fought with in every step of the way.
Well, and personally threatened, and his company, Tesla.
Oh, yeah, they burned Tesla's the whole deal, right.
And I don't understand it. I understand it, I guess, in the sense that it was a big slush fund for political types, as USAID and some of these other things. But I agree. I thought that politicians would want to do the right thing. But, Jim, I'm becoming aware that they don't. And I fear that's also in the Republican Party as well. They saved $150 billion. There are people who weren't going to work for years. They just cut 12 million people off of Social Security that were over 120 years old. All right. Now, I don't know how you argue. I don't know how you fight against that. I don't know why you go to court over that. There's 18 million illegal aliens receiving Social Security benefits. Can I read you something? I'd like to get your reaction.
Sure.
This was on Jesse Waters last night, and it was somebody who was basically being honest, and she said this: "The truth is, you all hating on me because I live rent-free and can afford all the luxuries you all dream about for me and my kids. I'm going to continue to buy my luxury bags," and she holds up a Louis Vuitton, "with the government paying my rent. I'm going to continue to go on trips that me and my kids love to do while you struggling to pay your grocery bills while I swipe my EBT card." Now, that enraged me, but I'm not saying that's not an exception, okay? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying everybody's playing the game, but that's not the exception. Why would you not want to put an end to that? Oh, so you can't answer? Would you want to go out and burn a Tesla over that?
I don't know. I think what's sad about this whole thing is, and maybe I'm in the same camp, nobody wants to sacrifice anything.
No, it's true.
Right? In World War II, we all sacrificed. Families sent their guys off to go fight. You know, they worked in the factories. They rationed. They did whatever they could. And maybe it was the greatest marketing gimmick the government's ever pulled on the people, but it worked. And now we're in this situation where, you know, whatever they were targeting to try to save money with, if it hurt you personally, if you felt like it hurt you personally, then suddenly you didn't want it. You know, go someplace else and go try to save money over there, but leave my stuff alone. And okay, tariffs, for example, right? Mm-hmm. If we truly need this tariff to fix the economy and the trade imbalances, then we have choices. We don't need to buy the item that went up 50% in price. Just don't buy it, or go buy it, you know, someplace else that's cheaper.
No.
But nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants cheap prices. Everybody wants the stock market to continue to be green every single day. Nobody wants to make a sacrifice. And that's what's, I think, ultimately said about this whole thing. And the fact that he, who I think is an American hero, he's got successful businesses. He's smarter than heck. He may not like his methods, but he gets things done. You know, wasn't basically allowed, you know, to help the citizenry of this country by making government more efficient.
I'm sure you heard some of the stories where if an employee retires, where the paperwork goes, right, into a cave, and it takes like 5-6 months for that person to retire. Their computer hardware is, well, I think we have more computing power in our watch than the government has on there. I mean, all of these things, it would seem to me that a person, any person who's running any kind of business would want to upgrade. And you're right, this kickback, this pushback seems very corrupt to me. You know, I understand the politics with the Democrats doing what they're doing, but put it this way, Elon Musk said, I think Doge will become stronger as it becomes more a part of government. Do you believe Doge will be here 2-3 years from now?
I mean, it's been here for a while. It just never did anything. And then now it's doing something. Yeah, I doubt that's going to be effective down the road unless you truly have powerful people running it and they're allowed to, within the rule of law, allowed to do things without having to be stopped every 5 seconds. So it's possible, but it's highly doubtful.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And the game that's being played with the judge shopping and all of that, it's just, I think people are tired of it overall, those who understand it. Do you, and I know you do, I know because you're a business guy, right? We're the position we're in with the United States and the debt we're carrying. I think we add $1 trillion every 100 days to our debt. If you were running a business, what would happen to that business, Jim?
Gone.
So if we're talking about sacrifice, Jim, wouldn't that be a really big sacrifice for all of us?
It's a huge one, yeah.
I'm looking for a little rainbow here, Jim. I'm looking for a little silver lining. I don't want to, end on a bad note. I thought what they did was spectacular. I was excited, and I thought everybody would jump on board and say, wow, finally, we got a handle on it, and the complete opposite happened. So where do we go from here?
I don't know if there's any, there's a lot of good news out there. Obviously, what I'm seeing in the younger generation, Maybe it's just the age group my kids are in at this point in time.
Yes, that is good news. Right.
People are getting married. They're having kids. They're having multiple kids. They're going back to church. Catholic Church has had a renaissance in the last 3 or 4 years.
What do you think of the new Pope?
I don't know much about him, but he went to my alma mater, Villanova University, so he's got to be half cool at least.
Yeah, at least half cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's hope, because I think, as we talked earlier in other podcasts, in order to have a wildly successful family, you must have a religious foundation. And it doesn't mean you have to go to church every 5 seconds, but you need to understand that, it's not about you. It's about something much bigger. And I think the younger generation seems to understand that a little bit more right now. And I'm hopeful that, things will change as that group gets older.
And I think you're right. And it seems to be showing up in the polls as well, where you have, is it Gen Z? Is that what it is today? More conservative, a little more, as you say, family-oriented, and which is, I guess, not unusual if you always seem to do the opposite of the generation before you.
Right.
So that is good news. And so is your tea. Your tea is awesome, Matt. It absolutely is awesome. You have any final thoughts on any of this?
There's always hope, and drink tea and enjoy life.
Yeah, and if you don't like the fuel surcharge, go pick it up yourself.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, if you would like to order tea, Jim will waive the surcharge. I'm pretty sure.
It's not there already, but yeah, free shipping over $40.
Perfect. Jim, as always, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining us on Hot Takes 50 Cups. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to visit our website at 50cupstea.com for more great content and delicious organic teas, and listen and watch us on all the leading platforms. Stay connected with us on Instagram at 50cupstea, YouTube, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends. Until next time, keep sipping and stay united.